Welcome to the 162nd episode of the Reading and Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Rutherford. Stay tuned for my interview with Linda Barnes, author of the Carlotta Carlisle Mystery Series. Linda's latest novel, The Perfect Ghost, is a standalone suspense novel. Stay tuned for my interview with Linda Barnes. This interview was recorded live at the Crime Bait Conference in Boston, Massachusetts. The Reading and Writing Podcast is sponsored by the book-loving nerds at Riffle. Riffle is an online book community that connects readers with authors and books that they'll love. Readers use Riffle to find the next book that they want to read. And authors use Riffle to make their books stand out and drive sales. Join the Riffle community today at rifflebooks.com. That's rifflebooks.com, and look for the link in the show notes as well. Welcome back to the Reading and Writing Podcast. My guest today is Linda Barnes. Linda is the author of 17 novels. 12 of those novels featured 6-foot, 1-inch, red-headed private eye Carlotta Carlisle, and 4 featured actor-detective Michael Sprague. Linda Barnes' latest novel, The Perfect Ghost, was published in April. Linda, welcome to the podcast.
Nice to be here, Jeff.
Sure. Well, for those listeners who haven't read The Perfect Ghost yet, how would you describe your new novel?
It's a real change-up for me. I think of it as a modern Gothic, a psychological novel with a twist. Modern Gothic says it best with a little hint of noir.
Great. Well, as I mentioned, you've written a series of popular mystery novels featuring Carlotta Carlisle. When you first started thinking about the idea for The Perfect Ghost, did you think it might be a Carlotta novel, or did you know from the beginning?
No, absolutely. I wanted to take a break from the Carlisle series, and I had an idea for a book that I knew would only be one book, would not be a series. When you write a series, there's a level of commitment that you make to a particular character. And I had a character in mind, but I did not want to deal with her for a lifetime. And so I wrote a standalone. It was a wonderful experience. And now I'm glad it's over.
Well, at the beginning of your career, before you wrote your first short stories about Carlotta and the first novel, A Trouble of Fools, had you written fiction before, or did you start out?
I began as a teacher, and then I was teaching theater, and I found myself in a position where I was required to write a play. The Boston Globe used to run the Boston Globe Drama Festival, and every high school had to submit a one-act play. They had a contest, and I was told I had to participate in this, and I had not written prior to that. I had 12 wonderful actor kids, and I wrote their names on a piece of paper, and I said, here's my cast. And then I went to look for a play that had 12 characters in it and was a one act, and there's no such thing, or there was not such a thing. So I had 6 weeks and 12 kids, and I wrote a play for them. And it was so much fun, and we kept winning. And at state finals, a man came up to me and said, "Can I publish that?" And I said, "Okay." And then when I left teaching, I thought, well, I'll write a novel and someone will come up and they'll say, can I publish that?
And is that how
Imagine my surprise. It didn't work like that at all.
It didn't?
No.
And so when you first started writing the Carlotta series, it was in the mid-'80s, and there was obviously at that time kind of a renaissance of female private eyes.
Well, when I started writing her, there were no female private eyes at all. When I floated the idea of this sort of tough female PI around in the very early 80s, and people said, "Are you crazy?" That Rex Stout had tried to do one, Bertha Cool, that it never worked. Nobody would be interested in buying this, and I listened to them, which was a mistake. And by the time I I was so frustrated with the series that I was writing with Michael Sprague, I decided that I would write a short story to audition Carlotta, because everybody kept telling me she'd never sell. And I wrote this short story, and I shopped the short story around, and nobody wanted the short story, and my agent shopped it around and sold it to 3 publications that failed immediately. And when it finally came out, it was nominated for or won every major mystery award. And then people said, "Oh my God, why don't you write a woman?" And, this had been 5 years in the making.
Sure.
So by that time, people were going, "Oh, well, you copied Sue Grafton." And I was going, "No." I don't think it's a coincidence that we all came out at around the same time, though,
Sure.
because, we were writing about the lives we were living.
Yeah.
And that was really, times had changed, and
Sure.
we changed with them.
That's great. Well, now that you've written 17 novels, has your writing process changed at all from when you started?
I think that I'm probably writing with less desperation than I wrote with at other times. I think that my process changes with each book, that each book seems to require different things. And so now I'm starting a new series, and I feel like I'm beginning from ground zero again, and hoping that each book teaches me what it is I need to know.
So can you tell me about the new series yet?
I can't yet.
You can't?
I
Okay.
really cannot.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And that's what you're working on now?
That is absolutely what I'm working on now. I finished a short story with this character, but I don't know that excuse me, I don't know that I'm going to actually publish the short story,
Sure.
or whether I'm going to use it as sort of a calling card,
Right.
and just try to sell the book on the basis of the short story.
Gotcha. So what advice would you have for aspiring writers who may be listening?
Oh, sit down and do it. Do it today. Stop talking about how you're going to write your book, and write your book. That's really the basic thing that I would tell them. That you have to be 10 of the most stubborn people you know, and you have to sit down and do the work. There's no getting around it. There's no easy way.
Sure. So what books or authors have you read lately that you would recommend, either fiction or nonfiction?
I'm reading. I read everything from the back of cereal boxes to nonfiction. I'm a big Civil War buff, and I read Michael Shara, and I read all of these wonderful writers. I just finished Karen Russell's Swamplandia, and I just finished the Adam Jones book set in North Korea that I can no longer remember the title of, but that just won a Pulitzer. When I read in the genre, which I do fervently, I always come back to the masters.
Sure.
Right now I have a Rex Stout in my purse that I'm carrying around because it's a small book. But I read Sue Grafton, I read Michael Connelly, I read Laurie R. King. And I always like to give them plugs.
Great. So going back to a moment when we were talking about, the first Carlotta novel and that time period, and you said you felt like you were writing about the life that you were living. Were you aware at the time? I mean, obviously you said that you floated the idea and people kind of, shot it down. But were you kind of aware at the time that this is, that you felt like you needed to write that it was reflective as opposed to...
I absolutely needed to write that book. I felt like Carlotta her voice would not stop hammering in my ear, and that she was someone that I felt that she wasn't out there, she wasn't represented, that someone needed to tell that story. I'm a big believer in the regional PI novel. Mm-hmm. I think of them as my travel guides. If I'm going to the Midwest, If I'm going to Cincinnati, I want to read a Cincinnati writer. If I'm going to, St. Louis, I want to read a St. Louis writer. And I think that rather than reading a travel book, I would rather read Lauren Esselman on Detroit than read somebody who's just writing, about the hotels. I think that private eye novels capture the spirit of a city. And I wanted to talk about Boston because it's someplace that I absolutely love. And I want other people to know about it. So in seeing Boston through Carlotta's eyes, I got to re-experience my own coming to Boston and falling in love with it.
That's
that was
great.
Fun.
And did you find yourself at the time having to do any research, or would you just go to a neighborhood if you wanted to? Or do you just do you know the city that well and live there?
I've walked the city. I truly do love this area. And yes, there's research that you need to do, but often what I do is I'll write the book and then I'll say, I really don't know that neighborhood that well. Do I know somebody who knows somebody who lives in that neighborhood that I can talk to so that I can hear that accent? Because around Boston, hearing the accent is very important.
Great. Well, again, we've been speaking with Linda Barnes. Linda's latest novel, The Perfect Ghost, is in bookstores now, so grab a copy. Linda, thanks for doing this interview.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I enjoyed it.
Great.
Tis the season for those irresistible ginger thins, cozy blankets for cuddling by the fire, and making home warm and welcoming. For one-stop holiday shopping, visit your local IKEA or ikea-usa.com/holiday.
You should be saving for the future, but savings accounts suck, and investing can be scary. We combine the ease of savings with the real returns of investing. We call it SaveVesting, and it's only available in our new app, Stairs. Stairs offers 4 to 6% returns, no fees, and you can withdraw anytime. Do your future a favor. Visit StairsApp.com today.